Welcome to the Chapter 8 lecture on creating tables in HTML in CSS. In this chapter, you will learn how to create a basic table with the table, table row, table header, and table cell elements. You'll configure table sections with the T-head, T-body, and T-foot elements. And you will also increase the accessibility of a table, style an HTML table with CSS, and describe the purpose of CSS structural pseudoclasses. Tables are used on web pages to organize tabular information. The big question is, what is tabular information? In my own experience and readings, truly tabular information is something that requires you to run your finger across the row and down a column to a desired result, like you would find in an infant drug dosage chart that perhaps is done by weight or age. Or think about a multiplication table where you have to run your finger across the row to find where it intersects with the appropriate column, such as finding the answer to 7 times 8. The reason why you want to use tables only for tabular information is because you have to think about how this information is going to be displayed in the mobile viewport. If you have a table that has multiple columns, the table will be too big in the mobile viewport. And the reality is, one way to deal with this is to display the table to look like a list in the mobile viewport. And if you can make it look like a list, perhaps a list is a better choice from the beginning. However, this book gives the above example of tabular information being a birthday and phone list, so that is what we are going to work with. A table is composed of rows and columns, similar to a spreadsheet, such as an Excel spreadsheet. Each individual table cell is at the intersection of a specific row and column. The table is configured with a table element, TR element, which stands for table row, and the TD element, which stands for table data. A table is configured with an opening and closing table tag. Inside the table tag are table row tags coded as OpenTR, CloseTR. You would have an open and closing table row tag for each row in the table. In this example, there would be 3 open and closed TR tags. Within each table row are table data cells. The TD tags actually make up the columns of the row. In the example above, there would be 2 open and closed table data tags for each row. Captions can be added to the top of a table by using the caption tag. In this example, border equal 1 is added to the table tag. This is what gives the border to the table. The number 1 does not represent a size, just represents that you want the border to display. If you were to validate this code, it would not validate because the border should be added through the CSS and not the HTML as done in this example. However, since this is an example of a snippet of code for a table and we do not have CSS attached, it is in the HTML so you can see the output if you follow along with this example. To start a table, you need an open and closing table tag. A caption tag has been added to add a caption to the table. Below the caption element, you can see that there are 3 table rows, signified by 3 open and closing TR tags. You can also see that there are 2 columns to the table because there are 2 TD tags in each row. In this example, the first row of the table actually represents a header with text that is bold and centered, although it is a little difficult to tell in this example. To create the table header, you just replace the TD tags with TH tags in the first row. HTML tables may have attributes to further define the table. All of these attributes are obsolete, meaning the attribute no longer exists or has changed, and you should use CSS instead. For example, the attribute cell padding no longer exists, but you can use padding in your CSS styles. The border attribute exists, but the border should be styled in the CSS. It is important that you understand that tags can become obsolete, but you still might see them in some older websites. Here are some additional attributes that have become obsolete. The only attributes in this list that can be used are the call span and row span attributes. These are used to combine cells similar to merging cells in Excel. The height and width attribute are deprecated, meaning it is tolerated but not recommended, and may someday become obsolete. It is best to keep all styles in the CSS. Pseudo-classes are frequently used in tables where the developer wants to add a background color, frequently gray, to specific rows to help them be more easily read. If you wanted to add a background color to every even row in a table, you could use the TR nth of type even pseudo-class. As you can see from this chart, you can apply styles to the first of type, first child, last of type, last child, and the nth of type. An example of the last child would be if you wanted to style the last LI element, which is a child of the UL element. There are other configuration options for coding tables. Table rows can be put together into three types of groups: T-head, which stands for table head rows, T-body for table body, and T-foot for table footer rows. These groups can be useful when you want to configure the areas in the table in different ways. This slide has an example of the HTML code on the left with the CSS styles on the right. In the CSS, the table was given a width of 200 pixels and was centered on the page with the margin set to auto. The caption was styled to have a large 2M font that is bold in weight. The T-head area was given a background color of light gray, and the T-body had the font family set to Arial or sans serif with a smaller 0.9M font size. The T-body TD tags were given a bottom border with some padding on the left of 25 pixels. The T-foot was also given a gray background, and the font was changed to bold and centered. This is what the resulting table will look like when displayed in the browser. And that wraps up the lecture on Chapter 8, discussing the creation of tables using HTML and CSS.